This week on the Fully Live podcast, we're going to be looking at building strength. What's it take to build strength? It's going to take time under tension, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and relationally. Let's dive in. This is Justin Westmoreland, and you're listening to the Fully Alive podcast, where we integrate physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual relational health so that we can become a fully alive community together. Welcome back to the Fully Alive podcast. This is Justin Westmoreland. If you're listening in, you can't see this, but if you're viewing it, you can note that I'm dressed like a lumberjack today because it's Building Strength Day. We want to build strength mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and relationally. Strength. So what is strength? Strength is being able to skillfully utilize what you have to use. So strength, whether it's your muscles, your brain power, your spirit, in order to do things. So let me start out with a story, which is, hey, it's a great way to illustrate why we're going to talk about this. Let's start with a story. So you're going to love this. So when I was in college, one of my highlights of the week was going home to do laundry, and I would always look forward to getting to my mom's kitchen because she cooks so many great things. And as a college student, that was something I was missing. Now, but one of the cool things about my mom's kitchen is she always had on the border salsa. Always. Now, this is not on the border salsa. I couldn't find any of that here, unfortunately. But on the border salsa, I can still taste what it tastes like. I know it. It's a joy for me to be able to taste it and to use an on the border salsa with the on the border chips, which are great and yummy and salty. And so the problem is I could open the chip bag, but I very, very rarely could open the salsa. The salsa was all that potential underneath the lid, and I could never get the thing to pop. It was so tightly screwed on there. And I would try every little thing. I would take, grippers. I would take hot water and pour it over there to kind of get it to expand, perhaps. But it was a struggle, and it was just sort of like that yummy salsa was just mocking me. And that was just ridiculous. I mean, all that goodness, and I couldn't access it. On the border salsa. Now, I tell you what, after the last 3 or 4 years of getting in shape, there is no salsa jar that can defeat me now. I believe that I can take any salsa jar and open it. Watch this. Listen for this pop. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can take out any salsa jar and access it because I've developed strength to unlock the potential there. So one problem is that with the gyms being everywhere, with the availability of the Bible everywhere, you can get it on your cell phone. Everyone's got hard copies of it. With the amount of information out there with the internet, we could grow emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. We have all the tools out there. We've got relationships just waiting to be developed. There's 7 billion people on this earth, and the options are limitless, right? People that could add value to your life. You could add value to their life. You could actually solve amazing problems together in community. It's astonishing how much potential is out there, but we can't unlock it. You've got the gym, you've got the internet, you've got the Bible, and you've got people, but having the strength to be able to skillfully navigate all of those avenues eludes us. And so this morning, this podcast, we're talking about bringing together strength to access and live life skillfully. So when we can integrate strength and our physical lives and our spiritual life, we can bring together a lot of potential. Now, if we don't take the resources and use them, we're going to have disappointment. We're not going to live up to our potential. We're going to be cynical. We're going to be sad, and we might be unhealthy. But God's brought this podcast together. He's brought us here to change lives, to transform lives. So we're looking at building strength, what it takes. And so the salsa jar problem is really a metaphor for everything we're going to talk about today. We're going to unlock the potential physically, spiritually, mentally, and relationally to be strong. And if we can help you today, that's our pleasure. All right, we were talking about developing physical strength. What is the key? How did I get from being able to be a 180 or 240 pound weakling to being someone who could open any jar of salsa? Well, here's the deal. You got to have time under tension. Do you know that whenever you look online or consult with somebody about a workout plan, almost invariably someone's going to give you a prescription to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions per set. 10 to 12 repetitions. Where did they get those numbers? Did they just look in the Bible and think 12, oh that's a good number, or 10, that's a whole number? Why those numbers? Well, there's a reason for that. Optimally, you're going to gain strength through the appropriate amount of time under tension. So if you do 10 to 12 reps at 1 second of exertion and 3 seconds on eccentric movement, that's going to put you right in that sweet spot of about a minute of time under tension. So if you're doing bicep curls and you're curling and you go up 1 second and you let it come back down 3 seconds, you're going to have about 48 to a minute there of time under 48 seconds to a minute of time under tension. And that's what you have to develop strength. If you're just in there moving the weight, throwing the weight around, first of all, you're probably not getting the time under tension to develop that strength. But if you actually utilize that muscle and focus on the mind-muscle connection, thinking about what muscle you want to develop with your curl, you're hinging at the elbow and flexing that muscle. If you do that, then you will break down the muscle through that time under tension, and the muscle will repair stronger. So that's how you build strength. That's how you build muscle that's going to lead to strength and ability to open salsa lids and do any number of things. When you take 3 to 5 hours a week of gym life and you really hone in on developing your muscles and your strength in that time in ways that make sense, then the rest of your 163 to 168 hours a week that you have, everyone has the same amount of time, it's going to get better. Everyday things like being able to take a salsa jar and open it easily, those kind of things. So if your muscles are not undergoing tension, they're getting weaker, you're not growing, what you're not working on is basically not going to get stronger. So let's think about this. When you think about developing strength, you want to get time under tension, and that's the way we're made. Even Jesus himself, who made our bodies, what's the Bible say about him in Luke 2? He grew in strength. He was sweating under the hot sun, building, he was a carpenter. He grew in strength. He sculpted his body like clay, and we all have the clay that's been given to us to sculpt and grow and put it under tension. So I'm going to give you 5 really easy steps to start growing your physical strength. So number 1, you've got to plan. Okay, this is the easiest one. It doesn't take any exertion physically, but it takes mental exertion. You have to sit down and come up with a plan to go in the gym. You don't just show up in the gym with no plan. You research, you ask people, and you come up with a plan that makes sense for your goals. So you need to identify a goal and then work on a plan. So planning, coming up with a great plan, and that leads into the second point. You got to come up with a plan that you could adhere to, you can actually accomplish, you can actually stick to. So the second and most important thing is adherence to the plan. So a great plan doesn't matter if you can't do it. Okay, so it has to be something you can do, something that will challenge you and take you towards your goals. But if you're planning on working out 6 days a week and you have a track record of not getting in the gym ever, and you don't think you're going to have time to do it, shoot for a different goal, a different plan that's going to work for you. So planning is number 1, adherence is number 2, 3 is what are you going to do when you get there? Your volume of your exercises, how much you're going to do, how intense is it going to be, and how frequent you're going to exercise those muscles. So it's all those variables that come into what you're going to do while you're at the gym. So your volume. So if you want to grow your chest, you should probably do 5 to 10 sets of chest per week. So you can mix that up with bench press, flies, different angles of bench press, incline, decline, flat bench, dumbbells, flies, cables. There's a million different ways to hit those muscles, but it's key. You got to have enough volume to be developing the strength. And then you're going to talk about intensity. So if you want to develop strength and you're always going full out, and then you're running a 400-meter lap, in a minute between your sets, you're going to be exhausted when you get to that if you don't rest. So your intensity is going to require more or less rest in your workouts. And your frequency, you're probably going to need, if you want to develop that strength, you're probably going to need to work those muscles more than once a week, because strength is actually developing skill at these exercises. If you only do something once a week, it's going to be hard to develop that muscle memory and that skill. And so you want to hit it twice a week at least to develop those muscles. So maybe think chest. If you want to develop chest, go Monday and Thursday, 2 days a week, where you give yourself those muscles enough time to rest so you can develop them. So thinking through your frequency, your intensity, and your volume. Now, if you want to develop in the strength, you got to think about the fourth thing. And the fourth thing is your progressive overload. You have to have progression. So if you start out lifting 10-pound dumbbells, you might want to go to 12-pound dumbbells. You might want to increase the reps that you're doing. And so if you think about it, if you can do 10 reps of something with no problems, then you're probably not doing enough weight to overload your muscles and to progress. So if you're only able to do 4 or 5 reps without struggling and losing your form, then you're probably doing too much weight at that time. So be able to get to that level where you can do 8 to 10 reps comfortably, and then you can progress it up. Or if you're going too fast, you're progressing too fast if you can't get any reps in there. Because the ideal is here 10 to 12 reps of 3 sets for time under tension. You want to get the time under tension so you can develop your strength. Remember, time under tension. You have to be under tension in order to grow. That's the way God's designed us. That's the way we develop. And then finally, the last thing you've got to do is you've got to select exercise. You have to figure out which ones you're going to do. And then once you've selected those exercises, you're going to have to figure in rest. How much you need to rest between gym visits or exercise, and that's going to be the keys there. So those 5 things of you're going to plan, you're going to adhere to the plan, you're going to think about your volume, intensity, frequency, progression, and then exercise, rest. So those 5 things. Let me demo one thing or a couple things for you. Right now, we'll take it outside and give you a good demo of some key things. If you're just starting out for beginners, or if you're more advanced, we'll give you a couple of options to challenge yourself, but we'll show you a few things right now. All right, friends, we're out here. We're in the frozen tundra of Norman, Oklahoma, and I want to show you a few solid exercises to begin building physical strength. Now, when I started my journey back in 2015, I couldn't do a pull-up. Now I'm doing reps of pull-ups. This week, I got a new toy. I got a belt that can hang plates, like weight plates, between my legs, like from my body, and I can add resistance to my pull-up, and so I can add more weight than I weigh. It's amazing. So, but that didn't come overnight. It came through progression. And one thing you got to build, everyone needs to have, is a solid core. One easy exercise, a simple exercise you can do anywhere, is the plank. So a plank, what is a plank? Well, you're making your body as straight as a plank, and you're putting tension on all your muscles. So I'm going to demonstrate right now how to do a plank. All right, check it out. We're going to get on the ground here. You can do high planks, which are like a push-up position. You'll note that my body is going to be tight. I want to keep my butt up, not down, not up too much, but right in line. And my shoulders tight, my toes tight, everything tight, glutes tight, hands tight. You can also drop down to the ground here. Keep your palms down on the ground and just hold that position 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute, however long to challenge yourself, and then take a rest and do it again. So you can also do this up and down. You can go up to a side plank. You can reach around under like that. Anything to challenge you, to put you destabilized. You can tap your shoulders like that. You can actually grab some dumbbells and row in this position. You can do a lot to really challenge your core to make your strength. There, so that is a plank. You can do Spider-Mans. You can do frog planks like this. a million options. We could do a whole episode on planks and core strength. But I hope that's helpful for building the core strength. Okay, so we're gonna be showing you guys some push-ups. Push-ups are something everybody kind of knows about, but I'll give you a few tips on how to do them right. So we'll get on the ground here. Again, same position as the plank. Hands a little bit further than shoulder width. We're gonna go down, push into the ground with our hands, and then push up. Okay, squeeze your chest. Don't have your butt up too high or too low, dropping your hips down, but straight. Pushing through, head forward. One tip for advanced push-ups is to actually turn your head when you're doing it. You really get more of a squeeze on your pecs if you look over your shoulder when you do them. Fun tip. And if you can't do that, if that's too hard, definitely utilize your knees for support and go down and really work on just building up your chest. Feel your chest and bring it together and squeeze when you return to the top. One of the most underutilized muscles, but the most important muscle, is our glutes and leg day. Don't skip leg day, friends. One of the key moves you gotta do is a squat. So when you're thinking about squats, I'm gonna turn this way so you can see it. But when you're doing a squat, don't start, I see this all the time in the gym, don't start with your knees. If you start hinging your knees forward first, you put all the weight and the tension on your tendons, on your knees, and that's gonna be very painful and cause injuries. What you've got to do is train yourself, start with a chair under you and fall into that chair. So you're gonna have the weight over your heels and fall back in a chair like this. You're gonna lead with your hips. So you're moving your hips back rather than your knees forward. So hips back, not knees forward. So watch this. Hips, get to parallel. You wanna kinda have your shins and your torso lined up parallel like a lightning bolt. And you can hold this position. Don't feel in your quads right here. Don't feel your glutes, squeeze your glutes and come up, press up like here. So coming down, hinging, and then bringing it up. And you'll feel it in your hamstrings, quads, glutes, everything. All right, it's a great exercise, it's very functional. Squats. Another great exercise, we can't do it here because we don't have a step, we don't have dumbbells, is a step up. And the idea there is actually a great way to work out your shoulders and your grip strength, which is very functional, is to hold something in your hands while you're destabilizing your body. So I prefer step ups because you can just step up and you're really gonna feel it in your shoulders and grip. So that's the one we can't show you right now because we don't have a step out here. However, I will give you a bonus, which is the lunge. So when I'm doing a lunge, watch me. I'm gonna make two 90-degree angles with my legs. So I'm gonna start here, I'm gonna come down, two 90-degree angles. I'm gonna feel it in my quads as I come down, and my hamstrings as I go up, and my glutes as I go up. And I'm gonna start here, coming backwards. This is a reverse lunge, and I'm gonna press forward. You'll feel your glutes as you come forward, so you go back and forward. I like the reverse lunge the best for beginners because you're able to put less strain on your knees going with the reverse lunge. So you go forward lunge, okay? You got reverse lunge, and do 3 sets of 10 each leg. Then you've also got a side lunge, so you're coming out, you're really feeling your sides out, and you want to keep your knee lined up with your toes on this one. Knees and toes lined up. You've also got the curtsy lunge, which is another good one. You go backwards like this. Okay, you got a lot of different lunges, but when you're doing walking lunges, one tip I'll give you, final tip, is if you're walking lunges, you want to think four-wheeler rather than motorcycle. So if you're going forward, I'm coming at you, I'm lunging at you. I don't want to be like a motorcycle because I'm going to fall over. I want to be like a four-wheeler. So give yourself a little bit of a stability by having your feet spread. So like here, okay, you see the difference there? We're going spreading out versus being straight forward, okay? Makes sense? All right, lunges. There's your tutorial for today. If you got any questions on any of the exercises, comment below, email us, we'll be happy to help out. All right, so we're trucking along here. We've talked about physical health. Let me give you a book recommendation real quick. Becoming a Supple Leopard. Unbelievable for thinking through exercises and demonstrations of different exercises. It's very helpful with pictures and the theory behind how to do these exercises well for functional strength and development. And that's what we want to get is strength. We want to build our strength. So Becoming a Supple Leopard by Dr. Kelly Starrett, great resource to have in your library. All right, so we've talked about building strength. Building strength physically is the easiest, honestly. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's the easiest way. But let me talk about a more complicated area, which is mental and emotional strength. How deflating is it to know you can't get into this? You can't tackle that. And when you think certain things, certain thoughts, those things become reality for you, and they really, drive everything you do. What you think is going to drive what you're going to try, and what you're going to attempt to do, what challenges you're going to take. And so emotional and mental is really the key to unlocking everything else, I would say. And we're going to spend much more time here. So the emotional and mental strength is actually developed in the same way that the physical strength is developed. It comes through time under tension. Now, what's ironic is our world, our culture, wants to eliminate any tension in our world. It tells us tension's a bad thing. Run from it. Our community wants to become what do you call it? A inclusive community, a welcoming community, right? We want no one to have any kind of problems with anybody else. We don't want any disputes or conflicts. So we legislate being affirming. Okay, if you're not affirming of everything, then we will hunt you down and beat you. We will knock you out of society. You will be marginalized. This could be a good or bad thing, but certainly conflict leads to growth. Tension leads to growth. James 1, 2 through 4 says in the Bible, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." You see that God gives us trials in order to build us up, to make us complete and perfect, that we're lacking nothing. He wants to produce steadfastness or strength, mental and emotional resilience for you. Dan Allender once said that God has rigged the universe so that faith requires trust. And He's rigged every life with sufficient moments of splendor and delight to know that He exists. Okay, now what does that mean? Everything that we have in our life, God gives us something in order to help us to see His splendor and to rejoice in Him. Not just to know Him, but to trust Him. Okay, so there's a difference between just knowing something exists and trusting in Him or her or that. And so let me just give you one example. This is awesome. So I'm eating with one of my sons at Sam's catfish place down the road. And as we're about to dig into this fried catfish, I've got 5 fillets of catfish right in front of me. Hush puppies. Are you hungry yet? This is amazing stuff here. The great red beans and rice. I've got wonderful stuff. But as I'm thinking through, a couple years ago, he and I went on a deep sea fishing trip. And to just think of all the fish in the sea. All the fish in the sea. Like these fish are seemingly unlimited resources, feeding people throughout the whole globe, everywhere. Fishing is a big deal, and we get so much sustenance, so much nourishment from all of these creatures that are in the oceans and the seas. And to think about just the immensity of that this is a gift that we have, and I didn't have to do anything for this. This is brought to me through fishermen, through transporting it here, through all the work, cleaning it and putting it on this plate. And here it is. And in that moment, I was utterly thankful, utterly grateful. And I was wondering at just all the different fish that we've caught, and in snorkeling or deep sea diving, scuba diving, and just going to aquariums, seeing fish and the diversity, the variety, the colors, the size differences. You got grouper, you got whale, you got shark, you got catfish, bass, all the different kinds, and all different ways that God provides for us with fish. And see, we've all got those things in our lives, those moments that are intended and rigged to delight our hearts with splendor and delight in God. Not just to know Him, but to thank Him. Proverbs 1:7 says that the knowledge of the Holy One gives insight or skill for living. That's the beginning of knowledge. Knowing God rightly helps us to make connections that are necessary to have the mental and emotional resilience and strength to tackle life, to do what we're called to do. So what we want to develop on this podcast is the ability to theologize, to apply established facts that we know about God practically to our lives moving forward, to understand that there's glory to be unlocked, there's glory to be beheld in knowing God. So when you want to think about what is a good life like, well, a good life is lived underneath God's direction for God's glory, to marvel at Him. But if I were to ask you today, what is a good life, you might think, well, I want to graduate from school, I want to get married, I want to get a job, I might want to make enough money in that job to be able to do what I want to do. I might want to retire someday before I die so I can do what I want to do. I want my kids to do well in life. If I have kids, you don't want to get too sick. That ruins your life. And you might want to die in the middle of the night. So that you don't have to deal with the ugliness of dying. Just to go. And then once you die, if there is an afterlife, you might think, well, a good way for that to work out for me would be that God would agree with me that I've done enough good to get into heaven, to wherever that is. So that's I think that's if you're asked the average guy on the street, that's the idea of the good life. Graduate, get a job, get married, have kids. They do reasonably well, you do reasonably well, and then life is not too painful. And that's, again, the absolute absence of tension is what we're looking for. We want no tension. We want all the ease. And actually life is actually rigged to develop strength through time under tension. And we actually don't want an absence of tension, an absence of any kind of trials, if we really are honest about what's deep inside of us. So when you think about heaven, what have you been presented? What image is in your mind about what heaven is going to be like? If you're like me, you might think about it as eternal choir practice. And that sounds miserable, horrible. Repetition of singing, maybe playing instruments that glorify God, and we're just entertaining Him. And it is absolutely mind-numbingly boring and terrible. No one wants to go to that. No one wants that kind of ease. Actually, you need challenges. You need ability to meet those challenges. So what God's doing and what He's programmed life to be is to make you aware of what true goodness is. And what is true goodness? Well, He teaches you to exercise discipline in prayer. Prayer, I would argue, is the secret of the good life. And it's to pray the way that God designed you to pray. And so the disciples ask, hey, Jesus, what do we need to do to pray right? How do we need to do this? Well, here's the thing. First of all, you got to realize you can't do the good life. Jesus is the only one who's ever done the good life. And so you come to Him on His merits and say, forgive me, accept me, bring me to your Father. I have nothing. Okay, so we come to Him, come to the Father through Jesus. Because none of us have the good life. Only Jesus has done that. Only Jesus has been able to be judged as good in God's sight. So we got to examine our lives and say, hey, we don't deserve heaven. We don't deserve any blessings. Everything we have is beyond what we deserve. And we give God thanks for that. So you're thinking about how does Jesus teach him to pray? He begins with our Father who art in heaven. And this is the greatest thing. We can call on the one who made us as Father, as Daddy. We can present our request to Him, and He hears us as His children. We have access to Him in a way a child would have access to his or her father. So we come to Him, and I want to really highlight this one petition in the prayer, which is, Thy will be done, or Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so what you got to realize there is the good life now is very similar to the good life then, or to come, which is God's will being done on earth as it is in heaven. You see that? God's coming to us, or heaven's coming to us. Jesus has come to us once, and He's going to return again, and we're all most likely going to die before that happens. or we'll be here when when his return occurs, and then that's when the good life begins. And it's him coming here, not us escaping there for this disembodied choir practice for eternity. That's horrible. But what he's coming here to do is to remove the curse here so that we can actually grow and develop a wonderful creation with him. This place, it's going to be no curse. And so we can even begin in that right now. When you think about the bad things in our world that we experience, the injustice, the suffering, the diseases like that, hey, those things aren't here because of God. Now, we believe that God ordains whatsoever comes to pass, but he's not committing those things. We're guilty for those things. So we can start changing right now. We can start asking him right now to change us, that we might be an instrument in change in others, our community, in the world. So that comes through resilience. It comes through theologizing. It comes through wrestling with the injustices and the evil in our world and bringing them to God. Okay, we're not meant to handle those things and shoulder that whole burden on our backs. So true strength is going to come through connecting with God through prayer. Okay, and so that's the good life. The good life is this: is that God works all things for the good of those whom he loves and who've been called according to his purposes. So just to close this segment, think about that old classic movie Groundhog Day. How pointless is that movie for Bill Murray, the character who wakes up and lives the same day every single day, the same one, with Sonny and Cher blasting in his ear when the alarm goes off every single day at the same time, and having to do the same thing over and over again. What if we were going nowhere? What if everything was just a cycle, just round and round and round again? Well, that's not the thing. It's the will of God's going to be done. He's moving history in a direction. He's moving you in a direction. And that can be either for blessing or for curses. So we've got to turn our lives to get behind his plan, or we're absolutely going to be left behind in pointlessness, in a hell, which is the ongoing meaninglessness of our own lives, ultimately in God's judgment for rebelling against him. So this is the good life. The good life is being called according to his purpose, and all the things working out for our good, for our perfection, that will lack nothing, as James 1:2-4 says. Go look that up when you're not driving, when you're just watching this, or when you're listening at home, and read that and meditate upon all the ways that you've endured trials or struggles in life, and what God was rigging in that for you to receive from it. What kind of benefits you could have from that, and what kind of so that's the thing about strength. That's how we develop, is bringing all these things together and theologizing, bringing the time and attention to a good end, not a pointless end. All right, here we go. Halftime is over. We're diving into the second half, and we've got in most of our work. We're going to hit spiritual, and then we're going to hit relational. So spiritual. How do I get spiritually healthy? Well, you can't get healthy if you're eating the wrong things, you're starving yourself, and you can't be healthy if you're not exercising your spirit. Okay, you can exercise your body, you can exercise in a lot of ways, but if you're not exercising your spirit, it's not going to grow. So how are we going to grow? So you got a couple things, and you got to have time and attention. So if we're going to develop, if we want to be able to spiritually open the jar and get the pop, we want things to pop, we got to integrate things. So here's the thing. Our best resource for spiritual growth is the Bible. Now the thing is, when you set somebody down with a Bible, they have nowhere to go. I mean, no idea where to go. If I just give you this, you're like, how in the world am I going to even navigate this? There's so many genres, there's 66 books in it. It's ridiculous. And if you've never seen it, if you don't have any training in it, it's a mess. I mean, you're going to hurt yourself. Just like you get on a machine in the gym and you've seen all those blooper highlights of people in the gym not knowing how to do the exercise. And Steve, if you can actually include a link to that in the show notes, that would be awesome for a good laugh. But don't be that guy. Don't be that guy in the gym who doesn't know what they're doing with the equipment. Read the Bible in a way that's sophisticated. Okay, now I want to give, I've got a million resources in my library, but this is a really amazing resource. It's a book by Edmund Clowney called The Unfolding Mystery, Discovering Christ in the Old Testament. And this will bring together that the whole Bible is one story. It's one book. It's not a lot of different books. It's one story unfolding from the beginning to end, and it centers upon Christ. And it really dives into a text in Luke 24 when Jesus encountered two disciples on the road to Emmaus. And that 7-mile journey, he explained to them all that was in the scriptures. Okay, so he unpacked it all. And this is what that's about. So as you look at, and you're looking at the Bible, you've heard the stories maybe about Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Joshua, David, Ruth. Those are not just about those characters. Those are about Jesus. And your life is about Jesus. It's about worshiping him. And so if you're going to draw on the Bible for strength for your spirit, you got to know what the Bible's about. And this will give you great tools to start to understand and to make those connections and theologize about life and actually grow physically and emotionally and relationally as you develop your spirit. Because like we believe at Fully Alive, everything is integrated. If you're doing poorly spiritually, you're going to be doing poorly physically. Okay, you can only band-aid so many things in life before the heart of the matter gets to it. So time under tension, you got to spend several times a week working on your spirit. Okay, so let's talk about timing of that, just real quick. What I knew, I didn't become a Christian until much later in life. I didn't grow up in the church and being baptized as a kid and then growing up in the church culture. But soon after I became a Christian, I realized the church culture was killing everybody. It was telling everybody that what you need to do is you need to have a quiet time. Okay, a quiet time. And so that's about 10 to 5 to maybe 1 minute a day, 1 minute a day to 15 minutes a day where you focus on your spirituality. Okay, now could you really accomplish much in 1 minute to 15 minutes? Maybe, but here's the thing. God's already given us a plan. We don't need to come up with our own plan and be wiser than him. What he's given us is 1 day out of 7, a Sabbath day, to really focus on publicly and privately worshiping God. Think about it. If you spend 15 minutes a day, every day of the week, which is 7 days a week, that gives you an hour and 45 minutes a week. Now, if you spend a Sabbath day, that gives you 24 hours a week. That's a huge difference, okay? The potential to say, hey, I'm not going to work on one day. I'm really going to focus on spending time going to church, going to Sunday school or Christian education, whatever it is, spending time with other Christians or worshipers who might help you and might be able to instill some wisdom into you and to help mentor you. And serving others on those days, thinking about how can I serve God today? How can I worship him? That's going to give you more bang for your buck than just trying to fit it in when you're already obsessed and distracted doing other things. But rest from all those other things and give it 1 full day to really get into it. Now, on the other days of the week, what I recommend for those? Well, it's not like you just forget about God. Here's the thing. Just pray the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day. When you get up, midday, or when you close the day. Those three times a day. It's an easy way to connect to God and to apply living in his presence day after day. That's one solid way. We'll talk more about that in the weeks to come, about how to grow spiritually, how to grow strength spiritually. But those are just a few recommendations. Get you a good book that unlocks the Bible for you and helps you, a resource like that. Commit to 1 day out of 7. Spend 3 times a day praying and use the Lord's Prayer as a great, a really helpful way to do that. So if you're lost like me trying to pray, that's a good one. Okay, so there we go. Grow your spirits, friends. All right. Now we're in the final quarter, guys. All right, so here we go. We're talking relational health. We got to grow in our ability to relate to others well. Now, thinking about the salsa jar, man, there are 7 billion people out there, and you might feel alone. You might feel like you don't connect to anybody, and there's all that potential out there, but I don't know how to access it. What do I need to do? Well, relational health starts by knowing yourself. And first of all, the thing you got to know about knowing yourself is its approval does not define you. Okay, here's the thing. So I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's on this dating app called Tinder. Okay, Tinder. Okay, so Tinder, if you know, I'm sure everyone watching this has heard of it, right? But I'll explain it just briefly. Okay, so you put your photo out there, maybe some basic things about you, and then everyone who opens the app, who's looking for someone of the opposite sex, gets bombarded with pictures of people from the opposite sex, and they can either swipe right or swipe left. So if they swipe left on you, you're gone. Okay, if they swipe right, it's a potential, and you can contact them. I believe that's how it works. So if you have matches, then you can contact those people. So someone has to approve you by a very superficial picture of you and say, hey, this is somebody I want to talk to. Okay, so I was talking to my guy, and he's like, look, I got on there, and I got no matches. How deflating is that? Like that, that's brutal for your self-image. Well, the thing is, on that app, there's more men on the app than there's women. Okay, women just inherently get on there. It's a buyer's market for the women. It's like they have all kinds of options, and so the poor guys getting on there just get nexted. So you're thinking about, man, what do I need to do in order to grow relationally? Well, I think it's developing your strengths. It's knowing who you are. It's knowing what you are, and not what you want to be or what you trying to bring up these weaknesses, but understanding who you are. There's a book called Strength Finders 2.0. The author's name is Howard Rath, I believe it is, R-A-T-H. It's a great way to understand, okay, here's some things I bring to the table, and it's really focused on working within teams. But what is a relationship but a team? Whether it's a friendship, it's a work relationship, a family relationship. Knowing who you are and knowing the strengths of other people is going to serve you well. Think about what kind of reputation you have. What kind of values you have are going to determine your reputation, because really what's going on in your heart is going to come out. And so your health of your heart and the health of your body and the health of your spirit and your soul is going to really come out in your relationships. And so you can't have relational health if you're not strengthening those areas. So to develop relational strength and strong relationships, you got to work on your soul, your heart, your mind, and your body. When you start to think about functioning optimally, you're not going to have energy for relationships if you feel terrible. So thinking through relational health, you gotta think about who you are, and you gotta own, when you make a mistake too, relationally. Just recently, you might have heard the story about Amazon was looking for a second headquarters, and they decided, we're going to go to New York City. Well, New York City's politicians ran them off. They said, hey, we don't want you here. We don't want you. So they withdrew. And so what's fascinating is in the quotes from those politicians, they're just like, we don't need them anyway. We'll just use that money for something else. And they're all the time, people are angry with these people for messing up and running Amazon away because they really wanted Amazon. What would have been really awesome was, and what's unprecedented you never hear, and would actually probably bring them a lot more relational capital, is them to say, hey, you know what? We made a mistake. I totally blew it. I acted like a fool. It's my fault. Owning it and saying, look, I'm repenting of this. I did it wrongly here. I'm going to get better. The humility, the service to others, the repentance, the joy that comes from that, of actually embracing the tension and the time of their tension and moving on from it, rather than escaping it and acting like it's not even there, like I don't even have a problem. No, that's a real problem. You caused billions and billions of dollars to flow away from your community to somewhere else. Own the problem and grow from it rather than ignore it. There's a sign in my gym that says 95% of people who start a workout program with someone else will keep that commitment. Who are you in relationship with? Who's encouraging you relationally to health? And so if you need help, get in with someone else. If you don't know anybody, go to church, go to the gym, find those relationships where you can meet someone who has the same struggles. And the great thing about a gym or a church is everyone there is saying, I need help. I'm here to improve. I'm not here because I have it all together. I'm here because I'm a sinner or because I'm out of shape. I need help. So relationally, you got to find people who don't have it all together. That's going to be the people who give you life, and they're going to help you to grow as well. As you experience time under tension together, they're going to be able to encourage you to press forward and develop strength. So it's about time under tension, y'all. As you're thinking through the good life is developing. And that's exactly what we believe here at the Fully Alive podcast, is that we are made to live fully alive and built to worship the living one. we're going to take all of life underneath the lordship of God and worship Him as we grow strength physically, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. So we'll catch you next week on the podcast. We've talked about strength today. Next week we're going to talk about beauty and body image and a healthy body image. I can't wait to unpack that. And what's going to be really awesome is it's not just going to be me here dialoguing with you. We've got a special guest coming on, so be looking for it. It usually drops on Saturday night, Sunday morning, thereabouts, each and every week. So we'll hit you every week with an episode 5 coming soon. Okay, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share. Send us any questions you've got. You can email us at fullylivepodcast@gmail.com. But the YouTube channel is a great way to keep up with us. And also, you can find us on Facebook. We'll be releasing a Facebook page this week. So go and like and share that too. All right, thank you guys. We'll catch you later.